If he who employs coercion against me could mold me to his purposes by argument, no doubt he would. He pretends to punish me because his argument is strong, but he really punishes me because his argument is weak. He that loves reading has everything within his reach. Whenever government assumes to deliver us from the trouble of thinking for ourselves, the only consequences it produces are those of torpor and imbecility. The first duty of man is to take none of the principles of conduct upon trust, to do nothing without a clear and individual conviction that it is right to be done. Above all, we should not forget that government is an evil, a usurpation upon the private judgment and individual conscience of mankind. Revolution is engendered by an indignation with tyranny, yet is itself pregnant with tyranny. The wise man is satisfied with nothing. The great model of the affection of love in human beings is the sentiment which subsists between parents and children. Revolutions are the produce of passion, not of sober and tranquil reason. The philosophy of the wisest man that ever existed, is mainly derived from the act of introspection. The cause of justice is the cause of humanity. Its advocates should overflow with universal goodwill. We should love this cause, for it conduces to the general happiness of mankind. The diligent scholar is he that loves himself, and desires to have reason to applaud and love himself. Make men wise, and by that very operation you make them free. Civil liberty follows as a consequence of this. No usurped power can stand against the artillery of opinion. Invisible things are the only realities, invisible things alone are the things that shall remain. The virtue of a human being is the application of his capacity to the general good. To conceive that compulsion and punishment are the proper means of reformation is the sentiment of a barbarian. As long as parents and teachers in general shall fall under the established rule, it is clear that politics and modes of government will educate and infect us all. They poison our minds, before we can resist, or so much as suspect their molly good nighty. Like the barbarous directors of the eastern seraglios, they deprive us of our vitality, and fit us for their despicable employment from the cradle. Perfectibility is one of the most unequivocal characteristics of the human species. God himself has no right to be a tyrant. If ever there was a book calculated to make a man in love with its author, this appears to me to be the book. As the true object of education is not to render the pupil the mere copy of his preceptor, it is rather to be rejoiced in, than lamented, that various reading should lead him into new trains of thinking. The proper method for hastening the decay of error, is not, by brute force, or by regulation which is one of the classes of force, to endeavor to reduce men to intellectual uniformity, but on the contrary by teaching every man to think for himself. If admiration were not generally deemed the exclusive property of the rich, and contempt the constant lackey of poverty, the love of gain would cease to be an universal problem. All education is despotism. It is perhaps impossible for the young to be conducted without introducing in many cases the tyranny implicit in obedience. Go there, do that, read, write, rise, lie down, will perhaps forever be the language addressed to youth by age. Government will not fail to employ education, to strengthen its hands and perpetuate its institutions.